Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think y'all have a lot of pressure on their shoulders, and it's going to be a tough one to handle. But it is entertaining as hell to see y'all do it every single week. So, Boston.
Yeah, everyone is dealing with it. So this group is insane. So I'm gonna feel bad for whoever gets relegated. It's gonna be really sad to see someone go.
Yeah,
really.
Well, keep it up, brother, because I think you're doing a heck of a job, and I like all the points you just made there. I think the emotion is super real, and people are starting to feel it at this point. Boston, congratulations on your win, and I'm looking forward to seeing you play next week.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a nice day.
Ooh, these are the interviews I've been wanting.
That was a great interview.
Everything is hitting, like where players are starting to mention, you're like, yo, we're 6 matches in now, and this is, I'm feeling it. It's the heat. It's that heat. That's what I want.
There's no better way with Boston talking about the emotions and the pressure and the drama that these players are feeling. There's no better way to lead into this next match that we have now, because it's Swids versus Tice. It's one of the players that we outlined at the start of the day is really on the chopping block now, because other players in his group are starting to pick up wins and stretch away from him. He sat down at 1-4. There's a world of difference between ending this week 2-4 and 1-5.
Yeah, and so you can see the protection and the bans that took place for this Conquest format. There's a protection phase where you choose one of your decks. That's that Divine Shield bubble around one of the classes. It is ineligible to be banned. Then afterwards, you ban one of your opponent's classes, and then from there, you play a best of 3 Conquest. So when you win with the deck, it's out of contention. And so for Swids, Control Warrior has been, undoubtedly the strongest talking point for him across all of Grandmasters. Where in Season 1, it was Specialist, and he was getting targeted, I think, week to week, where opponents were specifically bringing decks to try to get the advantage over Swids. And then here, in this season of Grandmasters, Control Warrior's been a strong deck for him. It's the rest of his lineup where I feel like he hasn't necessarily gotten the job done. And, that's going to just be true for some people. My big question on this series is, about the Priest. We've been seeing Priest protected over and over and over and over again. Swids protects the Control Warrior again.
I think
kind of curious about it.
Yeah, I think it's influenced by the fact that Tice has Warlock in his lineup, which is a big kicker, I think, against the conventional lineup, I guess you'd say, of like Druid, Shaman, Priest, Warrior, which is the most conventional thing. Protecting Priest there has been the go-to, but as you can see in Tice's lineup now, because of that extra addition of the Zoo Warlock, Swids feels like he wants the extra kicker of having his Warrior, and he says, even if I protect Warrior, my opponent gets that conventional protection on their Priest. Maybe contrary to what Orange was saying earlier, Swids still feels like he has that good matchup as well with his Warrior, so 2 out of the 3 decks remaining, he does have good matchups with that Warrior against, the one remaining being that Quest Shaman, which does kind of run over Control Warrior most of the time.
Yeah, I am kind of curious about that one as well. How does that affect the queue order now, where the Control Warrior will have 2 what is thought to be commonly favorable matchups against the Zoo Warlock and against the Combo Priest, but the awfully potentially dreadful one against Quest Shaman, where it's so hard to get a handle on the game and really take that full control. I think if there's anyone that can do it, I look at Swids, because my opinion of it is he's going to be the best Control Warrior player in the world right now. Like, I have seen him demonstrate some absolutely super deep understanding of that deck. And so while at times I will disagree with turns that he takes, you cannot disagree with his macro plan. He knows exactly where that's at.
He's definitely shown why he is known as a Control Warrior specialist, and the irony does come in that he's now able to have more success with Control Warrior as we branch away from specialist format, which was supposed to be the opportunity for players to fly the flag like that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how this ends up panning out. Like, he also just has, like, the most unique build of Control Warrior, I think, across the board, even counting the Viper Deathwing. Swids has gone with no Eternium Rovers.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's gone with the double weapons project with Harrison Jones. Like, that is it's been so rare to see across the board that he has that built. And of course, the plague of TJ has descended upon us, where he clicked in 3 Plague the Wraths to show us the key cards, and I said stop, and then he clicked save, and this is what we got.
And then we're like, no, look, come on, change it back. He's like, all right, guys, I was just kidding. And then he broke the thing, so like he couldn't change it back. So now we're just stuck with, like, true story. This actually happened.
Yeah,
that's why we have that. TJ's a troll. He's very good at it. We love him for it.
Yeah, and Quest Druid for Swids, he's chosen to go with the No King Pharaohs package. That's been quite popular this week. But I'm looking at this lineup, and I feel like he's going to have to pick up the pieces with either Quest Shaman or Quest Druid. And for Tice, that Zoo Warlock, it needs, I think, to find the absolute picture-perfect spot if it gets played at all in this series. I'm thinking that with the Control Warrior there, it does not. And so for Swids, is this a matchup where perhaps you don't go with Control Warrior?
I see what you're saying. I do. Tice would have to really get that Warlock into Druid from his perspective to really have a favorable, which then encourages him not to pick Warlock at all, which then encourages Swids to do something other than Warrior. Swids says, no, I'm a Warrior player, all right? We're doing this. You think Shaman's favored? Let me show you why it isn't right now.
Tice could have played Priest, which is thought to be unfavorable versus Warrior. He could have played Warlock, which is thought to be unfavorable versus Warrior. Swids could have foregone Warrior in anticipation of that. Accuses the Warrior. Tice is on Shaman.
Yep. Greetings. Now, I believe it was Tice on week 1 who ended up losing this exact matchup to Calento, I believe it was, which is where you first highlighted to me some things to look out for in the matchup, which I did then adopt and try out on ladder and had enormous success with.
I will be curious about that because I think Tice's Quest Shaman play has left some question marks for me. Tice did go out of his way and message me and talk to me about those specific games where he was like, man, you were just nailing my thought process the whole time. Great casting, thanks. And I was just like, I was like kind of having a bad afternoon, and I'm like about to just cry to myself. I'm like, Tice loves me. He's so happy and nice.
Weird flex, but okay.
Well, I just told you I almost cried, like,
yeah, I'm ignoring
from
that
someone appreciating me. Thanks for rubbing it in. Weird flex, but okay.
I can't process emotions, so I was just blowing through that part.
Forgot about that, robot. Yeah. But Tice has left some question marks for me on this particular Shaman deck, and I'll be curious to see how he's going to handle this, because I think that putting together the right pieces and sequencing these in the right order and just so many raw decisions to make. If he gets a hold on that, like, he's going to be scary with this deck.
Yeah.
I must choose.
There is card number 30 in Tice's deck. He is choosing to play a copy of Youthful Brewmaster.
Love the brew.
I know you do.
Look how potentially good it is here.
It is potentially good.
Yeah, I'd start with that one as well.
It does look like a pretty solid brew turn, honestly. The threat of Restless Mummy in the early game against Quest Shaman is very real.
Perhaps that's why you don't want to play the brew, though.
Well, my argument would be that the Restless Mummy here can actually just take value trades over an Evil Totem. Whereas with the Youthful Brew on board, it just double trades and dies, and you get to redevelop afterwards with your Questing Explorer that you've just bounced back.
This does tell me that Tice is perhaps digging into the matchup a little bit deeper, though. Something I like to do when I have a lot of bounces in my deck is take my time where I use them. You can almost always find a way to get value battle cries. Like, that's not a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
The two questions are, number one, do I need to dig deeper into the deck? Which I generally always think you need to with this deck. Mm-hmm. But number two, can I be on a burn plan and just build up giant amounts of damage over time?
Specifically, when I earlier was referring to how Admirable was kind of preaching the matchup and the way that I've also then adopted it, it is really trying to stack up as much damage as possible. So if you use that Youthful Brewmaster on a Life Drinker, you can then get enormous amounts of damage off the Life Drinker, 6 per, and then each one of them goes 3 into your Shudderwock. So you end up amassing this enormous pile of damage in your eventual Shudderwock. A few things I will say to caveat that. Firstly, I think that plan is even more effective when you have coin and you get to be super greedy with it. You can hear a power coin Shudderwock at the end of the game, and your Shudderwock does like 30. Like that just ends games. Secondly, you do sometimes have to think about bouncing card draw so you can then get through your deck to all those Life Drinkers, to all those Bog Sloshers, to find all the value that you need, and of course the Shudderwock at the end as well. I like bouncing the card draw here.
He's not attacking first. He's not bouncing that.
Drink with me, friend.
Okay.
So the lackeys do represent a very similar thing. So I think when you're winning board, the lackeys can do a similar thing, because just generating kobold lackeys and generating goblin lackeys represents extra damage as well. So the question is the efficiency cost versus the, sometimes the downside of drawing extra cards. Sometimes you get to the end of your deck and you don't have time to unleash all your tools. Like, I have found that to be the case.
What now?
It is an excellent point on the Shudderwock, though. The difference with this Life Drinker now is it is 6 and then 3. If you brew it, it adds 9 damage to that total at the end of the game.
I said I wanted to brew the Questing. This Life Drinker can wait for Bog Sloshes later on. I just want to get through my deck and find threats, make sure I keep having things to do.
Yep. I think that finding the right cards is super important.
Yeah. Questing themselves are like so perfect card draw in this matchup as well, because if it does go really, really, really long and you've ended up drawing a ton of cards off your Novice Engineers, then you can get in a position where your Shutterwalk is actually dangerous because of the fatigue that it pushes you, and the Warrior starts to get outs with like discovering Clockwork Goblins and things like that to mess you up. Questing Adventurers are safe because they draw cards when you want them to draw cards. They don't draw cards later when you're Shutterwalk when it's potentially a liability. Because your Shutterwalk is going to fill up your hand anyway, always in this matchup. That's going to happen.
Pretty much.
So you don't need to draw additional cards off it.
Of course it's the right way.
However, Tice drew the second Questing Explorer, which has made things much, much easier.
Well, I'm wondering if Quest Progress was on his mind. You know, like there's a certain point where bouncing that Questing Explorer, if you face down something where you need to use a battle cry, it's not the proper battle cry. So you know, there's something to be said about the momentum of the game manipulating as well. The point I'm getting at is that Quest Shaman is really hard.
Oh yeah, we're gonna argue this entire matchup. Get used to it. This is gonna happen.
I love it. Tice wants to get the Overload out of the way this turn, so he foregoes Lackey Generation long term, but he gets the Overload out of the way because the 7 wants to be the former champ.
Makes sense to me.
You notice that Swids has like gone way out of his way to hang on to Restless Mummies as well, so I'm curious to see what he's cooked up with that as part of a plan.
Yeah, I think the Weapons Project has afforded him a lot of leverage in terms of how he wants to use the rest of his removal. As Super Collider cooked up as well, which is the dream answer to that former champ board that's coming down. Tice is going to be wanting to potentially find a mutate to go with that. Just an evolve effect in general, I should say. Is Quest Shaman just the best Lackey deck? Like, forgetting that, yes, it is because it can double up the battle cries. Because, like, the Evolve Lackey is so often a whiff for other decks in a lot of situations, but this deck, if you get the Evolve Lackey, sometimes it's just the nuts, and it's usually pretty good. It's just the most consistent Lackey deck.
Quest Shaman, best Shaman.
Okay. I didn't say best Shaman, I said best deck. It's a bigger question. It's the biggest of questions.
Well, sort of by the nature of it being Shaman.
Ah.
Yeah. Swids accepts the chip damage and just continues to be super patient with removal. It's just so crazy to me that him, Viper, and Psycho all have 3 like super distinct differences in how they play Control Warrior. And all 3 of them have been doing work with Control Warrior.
Yeah.
It's like, people are like, I think it's a little bit weak right now. I don't know. Like, maybe, I think maybe I'm a victim of, like, when it's dominant, it's so dominant.
Right.
That I just remember winning for large periods of time. And when it's losing, you just kind of lose really quickly, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, well, again, like, we're looking at this weird, bizarro world anomaly where I think it might have 100% win rate against Quest Druid in European Grandmasters, which is ridiculous. That's nonsense. But, like, it's so hard not to get swayed by that happening when it's just what we're watching. It's how human beings work. We're swayed very easily by empirical evidence.
Oh, stupid brain.
I know. I like this from Tice. I think if my opponent is going to accept chip damage as Warrior, they're not showing any signs of being able to stave off this damage, I think you just start pushing.
Compound the issue.
Yeah. Now those Life Drinkers, those Weaponized Wasps, those Kobold Lackeys. That's 6, 12, 14 in hand over the next few turns. There's no armor gain outside the hero power in Swids' hand right now.
It's actually 16 from hand.
Did I say 14?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't count the Kobold Lackey twice. You're right.
Well, that's the best sequencing. You play the Kobold Lackey, then you hero power, then you play the Weaponized Wasp.
Okay, yeah.
Well, no. Kobold Lackey, hero power, Life Drinker, hope the Lackey survives.
Then Weaponize. Yeah!
Just the worst possible ordering you could get while trying to accomplish something.
Now we're making the plays. I mean, that would be fine. There's 2 other lackeys in hand. It would be totally reasonable. But
Nah.
yeah.
1 bump! What does that mean? Why wouldn't you bump with both?
Oh, why did I find that so funny?
Well, why wouldn't you bump with both? I feel confused. Maybe that's the whole point. Get him to get Tice to just take up mental space thinking about something that inevitably doesn't really matter that much.
Sandstorm Elemental? It's kind of vulnerable if he does that, right? Because 2, 3, 4, like, he can send 5 into the Omegadillo and then double Sandstorm Elemental and then take care of the
You got
trades
4 1
afterwards.
ones.
Yeah.
Our Megadillo is like the one card that can force you off of burn plans. It prompts you to take action.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that it's a 4/7 taunt minion that's blocking you from going face with your minions, I think you get a lot of this damage back anyway, right? Like, you're pushing face with the 3 that you have on board, so you only lose 3 by going into it in the first place. I think our Megadillo or no, it's just perfectly reasonable to trade damage into it, buy some of that damage back with the face, and still have better board control.
Questing Adventure just keeps finding extra gear. Just opens another treasure chest. Ooh.
Thing's just a 2/10.
You go, Questing Adventure. Explorer! I've been calling it Adventure the whole
You've been
time.
doing so well.
You didn't even correct me. You wanted this to happen, didn't you?
Oh! What a horrible accusation. If you said Questing Explorer apart from that last time you said it, I didn't notice, genuinely. I
think I've
only
been calling
noticed
it-
that last time.
I think I've been calling it Adventure the whole broadcast.
No. Oh. Unlucky.
Just got word from our VOD detective. That hasn't happened.
Admirable's casting has been perfect, as always. Certified by Tice.
He did also say that we all have good and bad days in playing and in casting.
Ah, polite shade.
It's appropriate.
Swids is looking real dead this game.
That did line up very perfectly, and I think he's now seeing exactly how perfectly it lined up. That Questing Explorer has... It's been quite a nuisance.
Engaging TC-130
Oh, yeah?
mental dislocator.
Interesting. Took 25% to be able to push an extra 6 face, I guess, or an extra 5 face. So now you can ship 4 into this engine, drop the Sandstorm Elemental. You're faced with everything else? Sure. Sign me up.
Yeah. I like prioritizing the damage here.
I will say as Warrior, you do like seeing those mind control techs come down in situations where you're not playing 2 Mordants. You don't like seeing a second Sandstorm Elemental get drawn, though.
Swids finally plays a Questing Explorer of his own. A giant taunt minion.
What?
Well, I just look at the Questing Explorer.
I see.
Yeah.
Right. Now, she's not a mech, though. It's balanced.
Oh, she's a machine right now, all right? Don't you?
Very important distinction. Just slightly awkward on the Sandstorm Elemental breakpoints in terms of getting maximum damage to go to face as well. Could do 6 into one of them perfectly fine, but not into the other. So unless he wants to give up the Kobold Lackey for not face damage, this does become a little awkward.
I was thinking this is a former champ turn. It's kind of like the druid lesson. Your opponent builds 2 boards, build a big board.
Yeah, I think that's a good argument. My one fear with this is that you are... Ooh, missile launcher. 1 extra damage to the dome. Take it. If you build a big board like this, you're kind of all in, right? Against a mass AoE, a brawl from your opponent. You don't have the best of refills.
I think it's a risk worth taking. I mean, you have the damage from hand, opponent's low, and you have big minions in play.
Yeah.
So, brawls have some pretty disastrous outcomes. And I think when I look at the Restless Mummies in Swid's hand, I think that's what he was relying on drawing this game, was a board wipe. And then having a board wipe into a Restless Mummy to bridge that gap on 9, and then go into a Mega Devastator style turns. And that has not worked out well so far.
Yeah, I think that's also why Tice is more eager to go in on this turn, because he knows if it's going to be a complete board wipe, it has to be Brawl Restless Mummy. It can't be Brawl Omega Devastator yet, or Brawl Dinomatic, which are only possible on turn 10.
As it stands, I'm pretty sure Swids is just dead.
I must choose.
Light the fuses!
Yeah, he's super dead.
He's looking cooked to me. Tice gets over the line. Swids played it very, very slowly. Tice did precisely the opposite. He's looked much more aggressive than he did in the matchup against Colento. I think part of that is the hand that he was fed led to him playing it very aggressively. In terms of his resource allocation, I was calling for him to bounce the card draw, but he did not look in danger of running out of cards in that position. Of course, that final Novice Engineer that he drew made it look very, very simple. We'd like to have seen how that would have played out if Swids had the big AoE, and whether that lack of resources might have impacted him at that point. But the way it worked out, I think he executed it very nicely.
I'm curious about the hold of all the Restless Mummies. Like, I think that's a matchup where if he fights very aggressively for board, like maybe he finds a Warpath turn or something. But he just have both mummies in hand.
I know from playing it from the Shaman side is when I've got mummied early, especially it's often forced me off Evil Totem. I'll sometimes drop Evil Totem on turn 2 if they just go 1-drop because their 1-drop has 1 attack and then they can't kill the Evil Totem.
Yeah.
But if I draw it beyond that point, I'm very scared of dropping it because my opponent then gets like a real good tempo Restless Mummy where they kill a minion and then the Reborn gets to live, taking out the Evil Totem. So to me, it's definitely been a card I've been scared of in the mid-game alongside Dinomatic. Those have been the 2 points that I just haven't been trying to get blown out by. Swids, as you mentioned, distinctive styles of warrior play between various different people, and he clearly had a different idea about how that card functions in the matchup.
Yeah, I see where his macro plan's at, and if he fails to draw a brawl in that situation, I don't think it ever comes to fruition.
Yeah.
I think that's really the difference. He's relying on the key cards, which kind of when I think about it, makes a lot of sense. It's how every deck works.
I mean, if you're not going to draw brawl, you're never winning that matchup. Ever. Not happening.
Think so as well. You got to brawl, and you got to have the right turns to go with it, too. It's not just about the brawl itself.
Yep.
So we got to go to a break, and when we come back, it's our third match of the day that's underway. When we got 6 that's lined up for you. Right now, though, Tice is up to a 1-0 lead.
Darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tomb. They grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. But this league's gonna save the world.
My name is Christos Sakopoulos. My username comes from when I was a kid. I used to go to like an internet cafe with my friends to play like, I remember WoW and stuff like that. And I just had to make a character one day, and one of my friends said, your play's not phenomenal, so you can just put the name Phenomenal there. And I just did it, and then it just stuck. The thing that's unique about my playstyle, I feel, is that I sometimes think about stupid plays that other people would never even consider, and I try to get something out of it. I think people don't pay attention to details like trading or going face. I really pay attention to those things because I think it's super important. Like even one bad trade can cost you the game a lot of times. My favorite memory was definitely when I won my first Hearthstone tournament last year in HCT Orange County. And doing that just gave me so much more confidence and made me feel like I was free again. I'd say being in Grandmasters means that I've made it to the top players of Europe, which has always been my goal. So yeah, I'm looking forward to start competing again.
My name is Kevin Casey Eberlein. A Grandmaster means to me that the last year of 2018 was a success. After having so much tournament success and getting to Grandmasters by most of the time just gaining points, gathering points and just performing well in tournaments means that I did something right. My goal was to get to the highest level of competition, and Grandmaster is the highest level of competition, and I achieved it, so I'm super happy. What I'm really good is at playing of muscle memory. So at the start of any meta game, the first week, I figure out the best decks, but I play them pretty poorly. So I just keep playing them till I actually know everything. And this is just, preparation is key. I don't only like Hearthstone, I love it, it's my passion. My life, it changed a lot since I started playing Hearthstone. I used to be really, really shy.
Really?
Yes. And then after Thais, Crane talked to me, I just got a confidence boost. And from there I changed quite a lot. Try to be the best what I can get out of myself, and then I'm gonna be happy.
It's Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe. Spectacular Sunday where we have 6 matches for you. I'm Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora, joined by Simon Sottle Welch. And right now, Tice has got a 1-0 lead over Swids in our third match of the day. And Swids is running it back with the Warrior. And Tice has got the old Priest to throw at him. See if he can give it the good old college try. But Priest, I feel like, has looked pretty darn... it's looked bad in this matchup.
It has. You can get the job done, though. There are elements to manipulate. I talked at length about how this was the one matchup where the extra arms really made a big impact, the nerf to it, I mean. But Priest in general, it's kind of like a nuclear reactor of a deck, where when everything's running smoothly, which it usually is, it outputs this phenomenal, endless supply of power, right? But it's also incredibly unstable, and if it becomes unstable, it's just going to blow up in your face. What that means is you're constantly on every turn. It's like, oh no, if my opponent can clear my whole board, I just lose. I can't refill. That's not the way my deck works. The best deck at doing that in the entire game is Control Warrior. So that's why it generally gives Priest problems in this matchup.
Some people think that nuclear is the future of energy. No. You heard it from Sottle.
Divine Spirit.
It's Priest.
Swids, looks like he's doing a little bit of finger counting on his mulligan there.
Yeah,
Restless
smart.
Mummy. Restless Mummy, definitely a keep. Shield Slam, I think, debatable. Dr. Boom, certainly a toss. The only point of decision there for me would have been that Shield Slam.
Oof. First draw, the worst.
Yep, that is the dumpster draw for sure. I like coining things in this matchup. I think it's important to keep armor in check, so early shield slams aren't doing 3 against you. Very important number. Means if you are keeping the armor under check, if you get to hit face with a minion every turn, the warrior cannot build up 3 armor. If they can't build up 3 armor, they can't kill an injured Tolvir, an injured Tolvir, or an injured Blade Master.
I like coining things, just in general.
Full stop.
I wish that when you spent mana, just when you refilled, it just always gave you like a separate hand of coins, and you just had to use the coins to use the mana. That feels fun to me.
Sure. Well,
it'd make Auctioneer pretty good. Edwin would be a little ridiculous, but
we have the turn 3 10-10 hand.
Yeah, that's a big problem for Swids. That is the one hand that I think gives Warrior trouble. It's just early big thing.
Early big thing, yeah. It can be done in a variety of ways, so I don't want to say the one hand, but yeah.
Yeah, that's why I broadened it with early big thing.
Yeah. Armor up, shield slam, Galaxy Brain play.
That's the face of a man who was really wanting to draw Weapons Project.
It really is the Galaxy Brain play, though.
But you see like where Swids' plans are. Like he has such a different way of playing Control Warrior than what we've seen from other players. He's looking for combinations of things that make the matchup make sense.
Yeah. I genuinely think he's considering it. It's so right against this exact hand, but it's also, we've talked about it, what's the one way you lose, right? Massive 10-10 comes down. If he armor up shield slams this thing, Divine Spirit only takes it to 6. If it goes to 6, he has Restless Mummy in hand to take care of it.
If it's at 3 and Tice plays an injured Blade Master, Restless Mummy takes care of those.
Yep. This shield slam is the line.
It is so hard to shield slam. It's so hard to drain life, okay? It's really hard to do this.
Yep.
Especially when it doesn't kill the minion.
Like, Swids is going to be thinking, okay, well, what if he just has Circle of Healing? This is ridiculous. Like, why would I do this? It's nonsense.
He's got Circle of Healing. What's his shield slam going to do?
He's kind of right. Giga Brain!
The best Control Warrior player in the world.
Oh, that's so good. We can see the hands. Swids cannot.
Ooh. Ooh.
All right, don't look at the bad thing. Don't look at the bad thing.
Yeah.
Focus on the good play.
Look away.
The play was good. The play was good.
Look away.
Forget about the bad thing.
At every single corner, you'll find horror and dismay. Look away. Look away.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Yep, Psychic Heal messes up the Restless Mummy horrifically.
All right, so we need a 4-2 Rush Reborn. That's the next variant.
How much are you paying for that?
Well, I assume 3 mana.
Oh, oh sure. Ooh.
Is that different than the heal? Oh, I guess it allows you to do it all in one turn, huh?
Yeah.
So 8, you could slam 19?
I think the 1-2 trades, if you do it. Just to get it off the board for Brawl, so Brawl is a 50-50 and not a 66%
Brawl will
against
always
you.
be 67 because the Snip Sap will trade it.
Oh, trade it, yeah. Well, okay, it's still, there's still an extra 1-2 that would be there after the
From
pay.
75
It still
to
improves the
whatever.
odds, yeah.
I'm thinking reasons to save it, like Ziliax for Divine Shield pop, but you have a Wild Pyromancer. So I agree. Swids has to brawl.
Yeah.
No option. You could try to delay with Ziliax. That's super risky.
It is, but it is an option. We saw almost this exact dynamic get played out in one of the last games on the APAC broadcast before we took over, where there was, I believe, 22-22 in play. And there was, he bought some turns with a Frightened Flunky and then picked up a Frostwolf Grunt, I believe, to try and protect himself even further. And then took a 66% Brawl at the end of the game as opposed to taking a 50-50 Brawl and then being able to play a Taunt afterwards to protect himself if he lost. A lot of rough decisions in that spot. This is very similar now for Swids. Swids is taking the 67.
He's like, come on. I don't want to have to do this.
All right. Gets there. Tice does have refill, though.
Yeah, didn't die was step 1.
Yeah.
That's most of how your warrior plans start.
Honestly, I'll say it. He deserves that win for the Shield Slam. Would have been brutal to lose the 33% brawl there after getting himself in that position to begin with.
You rarely use the word deserves.
I don't like it. It's a bad word.
The end begins.
Hey, I got you.
Yeah, it's not the one he wants. It's 3-1, just dies for free on board now.
Not yet, though. That's a major pickup. I think Swid's turned the corner.
Yeah.
Snip Snap was such a key player in this game where it turned that brawl from a 50-50 into, A, it enabled it, and then B, it was a 67% chance if you round it up. And so now I think Swids is at the pretty close to the closing point of this one. Like, Tice cannot contest the Armagadillo. There's Ziliax, 2 Wardens, and a Restless Mummy in hand. This is an enormous hill, a mountain that Tice has to climb right now.
Tice examining his hand with much fervor. Trying to find some magical solution. I don't think it exists right now. The solutions are remaining in his deck, and they're big explosive cleric turns where you get to do multiple things at once.
High Priest Ahmed as well, right?
Yep.
That's got to be the critical draw. You have one Somni to pull the rest of the 1-drops out next turn.
Yeah.
It's just that the Armagadillo's stuck, and it's gonna stick again.
That is the absolute stone cold nuts that turn. Fits the curve so perfectly and puts another big boy into his hand for the buff. This Ziliax was always coming down to value trade on this injured Blade Master. What did you say last time was the perfect draw and he wasn't going to find a better draw the entire game? I'm not sure Swids will find a better draw his whole career than that Final Fantasy was.
Oh, come on, he's won this game already. He won the game.
I mean, we were just talking about there was still some ways out if he was to find Armet with all the 1-drops.
Yeah, it's a true story.
That just completely shut them off.
It's because it's the way that it contestable on Somni too, right? Like it punches right through it. You get to keep going. Like the Armagadillo has lived for a 3rd turn now. Like it's done.
3rd turn, 3rd Tomb Warden. Third game, game 3.
Turn
Let's go.
3, Shield Slam, you're 2-5 for 2.
Beautiful.
Forces a slight deviation on Tice's side. Snip Snap gets drawn, enables the brawl. Win the brawl, win the game.
I said it as a troll at first. It's like, yeah, Hero Power Shield Slam at Giga Brain. And then as soon as I said it, I was like, no, wait, that's actually the line. Like, that's actually what you do.
I must consider.
Sometimes you gotta soften up targets. You're never gonna get full value from every card always.
Yep.
That's never been more true against any deck than Priest. This one in particular.
Is someone injured?
I've got more left in me.
Needs Armet. At absolute minimum, he needs Armet right now.
I think Encircle of Healing is the first prerequisite.
Quickly.
Sure,
He's also just gotta not die. I mean, he's facing 18 next turn.
Yeah.
In the light's name.
There's Ahmet.
Okay, so how do we execute Operation Not Die from here?
Whew. File not found.
Okay. Meanwhile, Swids' turns pretty straightforward, but he has earned the right for those turns to be pretty straightforward at this point. It's just a 9-12.
Tice like, all right. Yeah, and Swids is free to kill everything because just the board represents lethal next turn.
Yeah. Oh, come on, it doesn't matter. Can't tell a professional Hearthstone player it doesn't matter.
How dare you tell Picasso how to paint?
Yeah, fair point.
killing minions is my canvas. Control Warrior is my brush. It's just so beautiful.
Just awaiting the bottom right. Any second now, a beautiful turn 3 from Swids has sent them into game number 3 of the series. You set him up, the Control Warrior Maestro.
That's a beautiful name. Maestro Swids. But
Nice. Pours himself a hard-earned cup of tea after that one. Steady the nerves after that one.
Gonna need to steep this one a bit longer.
Yeah.
I'm curious. This is where my question mark has been, though, is the rest of Swids and being able to get the job done. He's pretty much all of his wins have been in Control Warrior form. He has to be able to defeat Priest with one of these next 2 decks, and I'm looking at Quest Shaman and Quest Druid as the 2 options to do this with. Like that's not easy by any stretch of the means. Those are both bad matchups.
They are. And I feel like we've been here before. I think it was exactly the situation in the last series, or perhaps it was match number 1, but we've been here where it's like, okay, great, you beat the Priest with the Control Warrior, but if you've lost game 1, you're then in that spot where the Priest has those 2 favorables remaining and you've got to find your way out of it.
Yeah, and it was Pavel versus Boston where that was in play. Now, Boston did I believe, overcame the situation, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
That's tough to do.
It can be done. It's not insurmountable. We're not saying that like Priest is just a free win. It always wins in the series. It's not true. Like I stand by the analogy of like it is an unstable nuclear reactor. Like it does get hands that just blow up in its own face, and it is always just hanging by a thread. I think that's part of why the Bomb SAM-D coming into the deck has been such a big deal, because it gives that kind of secondary win condition where if you don't curve out perfectly and grip the board the entire game, you do have that option to just draw all your 1-drops, and if you have the Armet, you can explode from behind and still sometimes win. But generally, it is just hanging on by a fine thread. It just hangs on by that thread so consistently that it looks like it's unbeatable in a lot of spots.
Swids, this is an opening hand I like. I have talked at length about how important I think Weaponized Wasp is in the matchup.
I'm actually not a huge fan of it in the opening hand. I think we've had this discussion already.
It's just this matchup in particular.
No, but in this matchup in particular, I am generally not a fan of it. I think because it comes down a little, like if you could just play it on 3, just go bang, like snipe your guy, like that would be so good.
So your issue is that you have to coin with it.
The problem is that, well, you have to coin with it, and then you have to have had a lackey stuck on the board if that's going to be the case anyway.
Wow, I'm surprised by that. I really am.
I am
So
not.
he's just going for the Mogus then?
I think you're just going for a way to curve out with more stats on board naturally, and I think the Wasps come into play later in the game when you've already fought for board early on. I think trying to say that you're going to be able to activate consistently when they play way more 1-drops than you, they're going first, you have to play your quest, they're going to be ahead of you on the board, so you can't curve lackeys because they're just going to kill the lackeys off the board, so you have to wait until you can play a lackey and a Wasp in the same turn, and sometimes you're overloading to get that lackey into your hand, which slows you down even a turn even further.
I've got more left in me.
That Northshire Cleric is never dying.
Yep, he saw Tice look up to the heavens, and he was asking himself, is there any way either of these minions die this turn?
Look, this is exactly what I mean, actually. I know this is kind of results-oriented, but this would be Evil Cable Rat, you seed over the draw, you coin the Lackey, and Wasp the Northshire. Like, shut down the card draw is how you win these matchups. So that would have failed here because of the Beaming Sidekick. That's okay. I don't think that this plan's going to work either.
Well, even best case scenario, like say the Beaming Sidekick wasn't drawn. He has a Light Ward and a Circle of Healing on the board. He's beaten the absolute heck out of your board because you played 1/1s and stuff, and you've just killed his Northshire Cleric, and he has an ever-growing Light Ward and a 2/6 left on the board. Like, that still doesn't sound like winning to me.
What hand does? Go ahead, pick them. I'll wait and listen.
Stats into Mogu and Mutate.
Light Warden's going to contest the 8-drop.
Yeah.
No way. Sometimes you got to get lucky. And if that means they don't have a buff on a Northshire, I'm taking that every time. It's a tough matchup. Your back's up against the wall from the very start. Everything's got to go your way. Now that could be a game changer. At this point, though, I don't think you have the liberty of killing the Northshire.
Oh, you were thinking about Sandstorm and the Kobold to kill the Northshire Cleric?
Well, I was just thinking about picking up the Light Warden, like,
Right, yeah.
7-2 behind a taunt.
Yeah, exactly. When it appeared, but then when you caveated with I don't think you can afford to kill the Northshire, I was like, whoa, we're killing the Northshire this turn? Like, no way. There's a 7-2.
Well, that's the problem, is
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
Northshire that's not dying.
Yep.
What to do?
Yeah, I respect that Swids is looking for alternatives here because he needs them.
Yeah, I agree. Vanilla play isn't going to get you out of this one.
I hope you like my invention.
Also, I've just noticed, but the score is currently 1-1, not 1-0 as displayed on the screen. Just in case you are just joining me. There it is.
Oh, my.
Yikes.
Oh, my. All right,
Sticking with yikes.
What 8-cost rushes are there? Gilnean Royal Guard? That one doesn't work.
Starts in 3/8 form. Akali, the Rhino.
That doesn't work either, I don't think.
Nope. You'd need it to, like, overkill and then have you draw the second Flesh Shaper from your deck.
I mean,
so you could use that as the rush.
To me, the idea that Tice is not delivering 16 damage here is absurd, and I don't believe it. Like, Swids' deck just naturally does not have counterplay to this sort of thing.
Nope.
You gotta go in.
Hey, I got you,
The
friend.
only thing that might persuade you off this is if you know they have lackeys in hand, and then you can kind of scoop the game to Earthshock or Hex off a spell lackey. Even here, mana wouldn't be enough to have Hex, it would have to be Earthshock.
Quickly.
Sure.
Yeah, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Restrict Mogu weird stuff.
Yeah.
Game.
Tyrion?
Tyrion's the... it's temporary, but... What else you got?
Yeah.
So I was thinking the rush. There's no like weird 8/8 rush at 8-drop, I don't think.
So wait, hang on. You can Sandstorm the Cleric off the board. Your Mogu then still costs 2, so you can't play the first one. Yeah, okay. So you have to leave the Cleric up.
Mortals are so
That's the least of your worries right now.
I mean,
Mortals are so squishy.
I want it all, Admirable. If we're going to win this game, we need a big taunt, and we need that Cleric to be dead. You go again.
Is 9 ever getting the job done?
Mulch Muncher is rush,
8,
but
9,
not,
11,
not
12,
relevant.
13. Nope.
Nope.
There is little time. I wonder.
Well, Tice after game 2 made that mountain look like a molehill. 16-16. Back it in. Tice. 2 games to 1. Priest. 16-16 to nothing.
It's the tea that did it. Yeah, there you go. There's a happy little boy. He's just drank his tea. He knows what's up. Hey, right on cue.
Yeah.
If he can hear me.
It is tough to beat Priest. It's just a good deck.
Extremely good deck.
The thing that's really interesting to me, too, about it is, like, almost every single deck has a dynamic where they want to fight for board. So Priest gets to build in a way where its dynamic is solely fight for the board. It's very good at that. You can't really play a deck that just has, like lightning bolts and stuff in it. Like, those decks tend to be very weak right now because there's so much counterplay available to a burn style of plan. So Priest gets to run over everything unless you just want to be super weak to what everyone else is bringing. And when it's a conquest format, you have to be ready for multiple things.
Yes.
Crazy.
Oh, you have decks. Does Swiss play the copy of Earthshock?
He does not.
He does not. Okay. I'm still thinking back to that mulligan because I know you're going to fight me on it for days after this point.
I'm not too worried about it.
I know we're going to. No, it's going to keep coming up. I promise you. You should see some of the arguments we have off camera if you think that was bad. But I think if he has Earthshock in the deck, like there's even more merit to throw it away, right? Because Earthshock, that's the reason the card would be in the deck. But if it's not in there, then yeah, sure, maybe we can get on board with keeping it. But personally, I've been throwing it away. And I will also say my win rate increased, and I was tracking it when I did start throwing it away. Small sample size because I'm just one man. But for me, the results were paying out.
I'm going to call that pilot error. Tice is ready for an interview. Tice, can you hear us?
Yes, perfectly.
congratulations on this win. Brings you up to notch your score just a little bit better here. And feel like we'll be getting to talk to you a lot more than we did in Season 1, and I imagine that's got to feel good by comparison.
Not yet. Last time was 4 times. We are at 3 now, but we are on a better streak. Let's say it like that.
Yes, and that's kind of what I was alluding to.
You're averaging a win a week instead of a win every 2 weeks. Like that's a lot better at this point. Come on.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm just winning. I'm just going 1-1 every week. It feels like it's fine. It's not great, but it's whatever.
Tice, you've always been such a jolly fellow, and I think it's even showing through here in Grandmasters, even with what's at stake. Here in Season 2. A lot of other players have been stressed with the notion of relegation and what that means. To you, though, it seems like it hasn't really been much of an issue. Can you talk to me a bit about your feelings throughout the season so far?
No, for me, I'm playing for playoffs, and actually I'm just playing for, hopefully qualifying for the World Championship. That's my goal, and I don't really, look at relegation or anything. That's my goal, and that's what I hope to go for. I guess it helps a bit when I've already competed for 5 years at high level. You play everywhere around the world. It gives you so much, it gives you so much experience, and I think that might help me a bit through because I like to play on these stakes. I play better when there is more on the line. So I'm actually super happy there's more on the line now.
So I know you are, you're a super happy streamer. You love your stream. You love your community. But I also know you're a very competitive player. So if you were to get relegated, if you were to lose Grandmasters, would you be happy just being a streamer at that point? Because it would be hard for you to compete then at that point, right?
Yeah, well, it depends on how the system is, but I want to compete. So if the opportunities are there to compete, I will compete. If it will be a very hard grind to get back, I don't know if I can combine it with streaming or anything. So I don't know if I have the willing to completely follow that, but there will still be other things around. I still want to be involved. I would love to compete at any time.
So talk to me about this matchup as well. We've kind of gotten some of the overhead stuff that's looming, but is there anything in this matchup that you felt was particularly interesting or tough for you? Some of the highlight and standouts for you?
Yeah, I felt very good this week. Also against Orange, I felt very good. So I was hoping for maybe getting a 2-0 in this week. Ends up 1-1, but I'm also fine with. But yeah, it was pretty likely that Switz will protect Warrior, or it was a reasonable protect from him. So I was kind of prepared for that, but I was just very happy that I got my Shaman with the Warrior, what I love to play. I love to play the matchup. So I was very happy with that. Then I knew that even if my Priest would lose to Warrior, I would still have Druid and Shaman left. So I felt very good, especially when I was 1-0 up.
Nothing more from me.
Well, Tice, this is your time and your platform. If there's anything else you'd like to say, now's the perfect time to do it.
Well, then thanks to everyone that always is here around in stream and supporting me. I try always my best, but what helps me a lot in the motivation and what gives me a lot of energy is all the people that are just supporting me everywhere. And yeah, it's just I'm really thankful and grateful for that. So thank you all there.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Tice. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you play next week.
Same. Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing me play next week.
Same. Tice is also looking forward to seeing Tice play next week.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. No, you said to ruin my hopes there.
Yeah, and it needs addressing, so we're going to do it. Swids now 1-5. It's nice to go all happy-go-lucky with Tice, but there's some serious business. And Tice, you look at the swing in that one result. Tice started that series at 2-3. Swids started it at 1-4, so he had the option, he had the ability to kind of leapfrog Tice in that one series, but instead the exact opposite happens. Tice stretches the gap out from him and RDU quite significantly, and now Swids and RDU are starting to look a little bit isolated alongside Viper at the bottom of that group.
Yeah, and Viper, a big turnaround from what we saw in Season 1 too. Yeah, he was in contention to make the playoffs in the stacked race for the top 3 that we had in the last season. And just, it's looking tough. They got to start putting together some wins. I don't know how. I don't know what way you got to do it. Pray to the gods, make some sacrifices. I don't know what it is, but something's got to give. So as we approach that point, I'm not going to like it. I'd be sad to see that happen to anybody, but here we are. And so now we're heading into our 4th match of the day. 6 matches on deck is what we have here for Europe. And we have Casey taking on Phenomeno in this one. Plays are just Phenomeno, so he called himself that, and it's stuck.
I'm never going to learn to say it like that. I'm going to call him Pheno.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I mean, Twitter's Pheno.
Right, and if I ever say it long form, I'm gonna say Phenomeno. Like that's just how my brain pronounce. Like that is not the word phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
it just isn't. I'm sorry.
I mean, Phenomeno sounds like a nice, jolly musical thing. So
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Okay.
That's why I want to call him Pheno. He calls himself Pheno. Casey versus Pheno, this one. We talked about this match at the start of the day as well. Speaking of must-win situations, for Casey, it's about keeping himself in that even spot and looking to eventually have the opportunity to pull ahead. For Pheno, it's about getting to that spot where you can find that opportunity. And I think at this point, no one has a question over Pheno's head of how good he is. Perhaps it's a metagame, perhaps it's a format, perhaps it's just things aren't going his way, which is the one I suspect it is. But
yeah.
This series is super important for him because this would be the literal exact opposite of how he started Season 1.
It would, yeah. And I've, here and there, I've been kind of poking fun at the losing streak and, making fun of the dabbing on camera or whatever else, but like from this point onwards, no, it's serious business for Casey here, and like I really do not want him to get him relegated. And maybe I shouldn't reveal personal biases as a commentator, but I'm going to. Like, not only do I like Pheno, I think he's a fantastic player, I love him as a person, I think he's a massively entertaining streamer. I also just don't want the champion to get relegated. Like, that just seems ridiculous to me. So I really do hope he starts putting together some wins now, because if he was to go 0-6, we talked about this at the start, that means he's going to need to win 2/3 or more of his remaining games to survive based on the standard we set last season.
Kicking things off with Holy Wrath Paladin, and right away, you see what this matchup drives you to do in Weird Notions. Coin out the old Bloodfen Raptor to contest. There's one more hope that's in the deck with Crystology. One shot.
Archer.
One kill.
Yes, first card off the top.
That is a game saver.
It is.
Feels like both these players have been wrought with tough games. And I think they're both in for a tough one here.
Tolvir, pretty fantastic draw for Casey. Expect the pace of this game to be very, very high, though. Something I have noticed about Pheno is that sometimes he will match the pace of a faster opponent, and faster opponents do not come any faster than Casey.
We hunger for vengeance.
He gets away from the Acolyte as well.
Rips the silence on the Bluff Mage Thanos.
Yep, it's one less card your opponent gets.
This Psychopomp right now is guaranteed Light Warden, I believe, and a 1/7 Light Warden at that with Armet in play.
Whew. Pheno's got a heck of a couple turns in front of him. So his eye is clearly...
he has Beaming Psychic as well. I apologize.
Eye is clearly somewhere on the equality in this game. It can't come down this turn. And so how do you best set up for it? Like, that's the long-term game plan for Pheno. He knows that if he sees Psychopomp here, he's going to have a tremendous uphill battle, and I think that's why he's choosing to just load as many minions as possible and hope that Casey missteps. I have never seen Casey take this long on an early turn. You can tell how important it is.
It happens here and there, but yeah, he for sure. I mean, part of it is just that this is an incredibly tough turn. I don't think any weight of experience. Casey says he plays from experience and plays on muscle memory. I think situations like these, Priest versus Paladin, not the matchup you play every day. I think it requires some thinking about. I kind of understand it. His pool is quite weak right now. His high roll is a Light Warden.
The
Amit's in play, so everything is a 1/7, but a 1/7 Beaming Sidekick is not exactly fantastic, and that's 50% of the time here. Whereas if these minions die, if at least the Tolvir dies...
Kind of all carry the banner the same way, though. I mean, it's curious. I'm interested.
You get a Light Warden out of this sometimes.
I wanted the extra health.
You value that over... Because he would have got healing from the Kangor as well as the heal on the minion?
I think I value the health more.
All right. But so I asked the question.
So now Casey's plan, I think, is to slowly chip away at that life total and have the Divine Spirit Inner Fire represent that lethal blow in one single turn. Right now he's got 5 plus 18.